Have you ever reached the point where you realize the people who were supposed to love you the most were the very ones staring you down? I never imagined my own parents would choose my sister over me every single time, no matter how much I sacrificed. But what hurt the most wasn't being ignored. It was discovering the secret they'd spent 25 years hiding from everyone. And when I finally exposed it, the perfect family image they had built came crashing down in front of everyone who mattered. Growing up, I believed that if I worked hard enough, my parents would eventually be proud of me. They never were. My younger sister Emily was the center of their universe. If she scored average grades, Mom would throw a celebration dinner. She's trying her best, Mom would smile. When I graduated at the top of my class, Dad barely looked up from his newspaper. That's what you're supposed to do, he'd mutter. No congratulations. No hug. No celebration. I told myself it didn't matter. It did. Every birthday proved the same thing. Emily received expensive phones, designer clothes, vacations, and whatever else she wanted. I got socks. Sometimes books. Once my parents forgot my birthday entirely until my grandmother reminded them 3 days later. Mom laughed awkwardly. Oh, sweetheart, we've just been so busy. Busy shopping for Emily's birthday party. She was born 2 weeks after mine. Even as kids, Emily understood she was the favorite. She'd grin whenever I got blamed for something she'd done. One afternoon, she broke Mom's favorite vase while dancing around the living room. Before I could say a word, she pointed at me. Alex did it. Dad stormed into the room. Why can't you ever be careful? I didn't. Stop lying. I spent an entire month grounded for something I never did. Emily smiled every time she walked past my room. She knew exactly what she was doing. By the time I turned 18, I had learned one simple rule. If I wanted anything in life, I'd have to earn it myself. I worked after school at a grocery store. I saved every paycheck. I studied late into the night. Eventually, I earned a scholarship to one of the best universities in the state. When I showed my acceptance letter to my parents, Mom barely glanced at it. Emily interrupted us. I don't think college is for me. Dad immediately smiled. That's okay, sweetheart. But I want to travel Europe first. Of course. Mom nodded enthusiastically. We'll pay for everything. I stared at them. You told me there wasn't enough money to help with my tuition. Dad looked annoyed. There isn't. Emily crossed her arms. I need experiences. Apparently, my education wasn't an experience worth investing in. So I packed my bags and left. College wasn't easy. I attended classes during the day, worked nights at a warehouse, delivered food on weekends. Sometimes I slept 4 hours. Sometimes less. But every semester I graduated with honors. Every accomplishment felt like another chance to make my parents proud. Every phone call ended the same way. Emily needs money. Emily's car broke down. Emily wants to start a business. Emily's stressed. They never once asked how I was doing. After graduation, I landed a job at a growing technology company. The salary wasn't incredible at first, but I worked harder than anyone else. Within 5 years, I was managing an entire department. Meanwhile, Emily had gone through 6 different dream careers. She wanted to be an influencer, then a photographer, then a fashion designer, then a life coach. Every failed idea cost my parents thousands of dollars. Every time she failed, they blamed someone else. The world just doesn't appreciate talented people, Mom would sigh. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. One Sunday, Dad called unexpectedly. We're having dinner tomorrow. I have work. This is family. Translation. Emily wanted something. When I arrived, I noticed a luxury SUV parked outside. Emily practically ran toward me. Guess what? What?
I'm engaged.
She flashed a massive diamond ring. Everyone clapped. I congratulated her. Then I made the mistake of asking one question. So, what does your fiancé do? The room went silent. Emily laughed nervously.
He's figuring things out.
Dad quickly changed the subject. Dinner continued until dessert. That's when Dad cleared his throat.
We've been discussing something important.
I immediately felt uneasy. Mom reached across the table.
You know how much family means.
Here we go.
Emily lowered her eyes and pretended to look embarrassed.
Her acting deserved an award. Dad folded his hands. Emily and Jason want to buy a house. Congratulations. They need help. I nodded.
I hope everything works out.
Dad frowned. You're missing the point. I looked around the table. What point? Mom smiled as though she were asking me to pass the salt.
We want you to give Emily the down payment.
I laughed. Nobody else did.
You can't be serious.
Dad's face hardened. You earn 6 figures.
I worked for that money.
Emily rolled her eyes.
You don't even have kids.
I don't have to justify how I spend my money. Mom leaned forward. You owe your sister. Owe her for what? For always being there. I almost choked. Being there? She blamed me for everything growing up. Emily slammed her fork onto the table. Oh my God, you're still stuck in childhood. Dad pointed a finger at me.
Enough.
I looked directly at him. No, I've spent my whole life staying quiet. The room froze.
You paid for Emily's vacations.
Silence.
You paid for her businesses.
Silence. You bought her cars. Silence.
You couldn't even help me buy textbooks.
Mom's voice trembled.
Don't bring up the past.
The past is exactly why we're here. Dad stood.
If you loved this family, you'd help.
I stood too.
If this family loved me, you wouldn't have asked.
Emily scoffed. You're so selfish. I laughed bitterly. That's rich coming from someone who's never paid her own bills. Her face turned bright red. You think you're better than me. No.
I know I worked harder.
Dad slammed his hand on the table. Get out. I looked at each of them one last time. You know what hurts the most? I kept hoping one day you'd treat me like your son instead of your bank account. Nobody stopped me as I walked out. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Every single one saying the same thing. Sa, how could you abandon your sister? Sa. Fuck, your parents are heartbroken. Fuck. Family should always come first. Hey. Someone had told everyone their version of the story. According to my parents, I had screamed at Emily, insulted her fiancé, and refused to help out of pure greed. I wanted to ignore it. Then my grandmother called. Her voice sounded different. Quite. Alex, there's something I think you deserve to know. I frowned. What do you mean? She hesitated for several seconds. I've kept this secret for far too long. Your parents made me promise never to tell you. But after what they did yesterday, I can't stay silent anymore. My heart started racing. What secret? She took a deep breath.
The truth about why they've always treated you differently isn't what you think.
At that moment, I had no idea that one conversation was about to destroy everything my parents had spent decades trying to hide, and once I learned the truth, there was no going back. The next morning, I drove straight to my grandmother's house. The entire way there, my mind raced with possibilities. Had my parents gone bankrupt years ago? Had they blamed me for something I couldn't remember? Nothing made sense. No explanation could justify 25 years of favoritism. Grandma opened the door before I even knocked. The moment she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "For what?"
For keeping this from you.
She led me into the kitchen, poured 2 cups of coffee, and stared at the table for a long time before speaking.
Your mother wasn't supposed to have children.
I frowned. The doctors told her she would probably never get pregnant. I know that story. She nodded. But that's not the whole story. My stomach tightened.
You were adopted when you were 6 months old.
Everything around me went silent. I actually laughed. No. I'm serious. That's impossible. She slowly stood up, walked into her bedroom, and returned carrying an old brown folder.
I prayed I'd never have to show you this.
Inside were copies of adoption papers. My name, my birth date, my parents' signatures, official court documents. My hand started shaking so badly I could barely hold the papers. I don't understand. Grandma wiped away another tear. They loved you at first. They truly did. Then what changed?
A year later, your mother became pregnant with Emily.
I couldn't breathe. They promised nothing would change, Grandma continued. But after Emily was born, everything became about her. You slowly became the child they felt responsible for, instead of the child they truly wanted. Every painful memory suddenly made sense. Every forgotten birthday, every unfair punishment, every sacrifice. I wasn't imagining it. I had never been their priority. I closed the folder. So, they lied to me my entire life. Grandma nodded. There was something else. I looked at her.
When your grandfather died, he left money for both grandchildren.
What money? A trust. I stared at her.
They told me Grandpa didn't leave anything.
They lied. She reached into the folder again. There was nearly $400,000. I nearly dropped the papers. What? Half for you, half for Emily. My pulse pounded in my ears. What happened to mine? Grandma looked away. They spent it. I froze.
They used your trust over the years.
For what? She gave me a heartbreaking look. Emily. Trips. Cars. Businesses. Designer clothes. Everything. Every luxury my sister enjoyed had been paid for with my inheritance. I sat there completely numb. But they stole from me. Grandma nodded. I begged them to stop.
They said they were just borrowing it.
They promised they'd pay it back. They never did. I felt sick. For years, I'd blamed myself. I thought maybe I wasn't lovable enough. Maybe I hadn't worked hard enough. Maybe if I earned another promotion. Maybe if I made more money. Maybe then they'd finally see me. The truth was devastating. Nothing I ever did would have mattered. The decision had been made decades ago. I wasn't the son they wanted. I was simply the child they settled for. Grandma reached across the table and squeezed my hand.
You deserved so much better.
Those 6 words broke me. For the first time in years, I cried. Not because I'd lost my family. Because I finally realized I'd never really had one. After a few days, the sadness turned into determination. I contacted a lawyer.